83 county clerks throughout our state. They not only spent today working to adjust and adapt and meet the needs of every citizen who showed up to participate, but they did so after managing 9 days of voting over the weekends and the week prior to today. The early voting period also went smoothly, and I'm grateful for all of the clerks who worked to ensure that was the case. They deserve our immense gratitude because they are the ones who truly are serving on the front lines, making elections work for everyone. Next, I have a few data points to share with you all. First, polls just closed a little over an hour ago, so we don't have yet final data or total voter turnout numbers. What we do have, when we do have those numbers, we will make them available to you. We do have final numbers for AV turnout, which are the ballots that are voted from home and then returned. Those are not, I misspoke, those aren't final numbers, but as of now, 1.2 million absentee ballots have been returned. We anticipate more will be returned or recognized in those final totals once we have them. And I'm grateful again for all the voters who participated from home this year and make sure they got their ballots in by 8 p.m. to have them counted. Now, in addition to all of that, we are also wanted to note that over 1,800 eligible citizens registered to vote and cast ballots today. Most of those were in Ann Arbor, in Detroit, but they were also about evenly spread all throughout the state. We don't see any particular patterns there, but grateful to see so many folks taking advantage of their right to register and vote on Election Day as well. For the last several years, turnout in this August primary has hovered somewhere between 2.1 and 2.5 million. My estimate is that this year will be around 2 million as well, but again, we'll have those final numbers for you tomorrow. Today, throughout Michigan, polling places were clean, calm, and safe on Election Day. Lines were short or non-existent across the state. As I mentioned earlier today, there were a handful of locations that had to adjust operations due to weather. Most of these were related to power outages, one location in Flint, one in Royal Oak, one in Grand Rapids, and one in Clinton Township, and 3 locations in Warren. The power was quickly restored. Everyone was able to vote, and I'm really grateful for the election workers who adjusted and adapted to ensure they were able to continue even despite the weather challenges. In addition, 3 locations in Kalamazoo County, one in Portage, one in Brady Township, and one in Oshtemo Township, had a moment where they sheltered in place due to a tornado warning. No voters were affected, and that I can go into such detail on weather-related issues at polling locations really underscores just how smooth and otherwise uneventful today was. All across the state, polling locations operated smoothly, as did absentee ballot counting boards, many of which continue to count citizens' votes as we speak. So thanks to all of those efforts and grateful for our state election officials all across the state for protecting the integrity of the vote. As I mentioned, we already know that at least 1.2 million folks voted absentee. That's the number of ballots we've received thus far. We'll soon know how many people voted in person today as well at polling places. But regardless of the total number, I want to again thank all citizens who participated in today's elections for making their voices heard in their community and participating in our democracy. Now, absentee ballot counting boards will continue their work this evening. Larger jurisdictions are likely still counting ballots received before today and also likely received hundreds, if not thousands, of ballots in the hours just before 8 p.m., all of which need to be security checked at the clerk's office before they can be transported to the counting board for processing and counting. I recognize that Michigan voters want and deserve their election results on election night, and I want to assure all voters that election clerks and their teams are working as quickly as possible to provide them with unofficial results. Depending on how close individual races are, some may be called tonight, while others may be too close to call until tomorrow when we expect all ballots will be counted. When unofficial results are released, election officials will then shift their attention to election canvassing. As you all know, this is the process whereby over the course of a couple weeks, they review all election processes and results to confirm accuracy and proper protocols were followed and correct any clerical mistakes. This work is overseen by bipartisan boards of county canvassers who will also conduct any recounts and then certify the amended results. After they have done so, the Board of State Canvassers conducts their own review of processes and accuracy of the elections and then vote to certify its findings, which then can be considered the final and official results. I want to remind everyone that during the canvassing process, it is common for vote tallies to sometimes change from the initial unofficial results. This is not evidence of wrongdoing, but this is in fact evidence that our election system is tremendously robust and has several checks and balances built in place to correct any errors before results are finalized and certified. And so my message to voters tonight is twofold. First, I want to congratulate all voters for participating in today's primary election. And secondly, I want to assure them that the counting and canvassing processes will be carried out in accordance with the law. Their ballots will be counted fairly and accurately, and the election's outcome will reflect their will. Thank you again for joining me tonight, and I'm happy to take a few questions.
So, Madam Secretary, you said that we know that 1.2 million AV ballots have been returned. How many more do you anticipate coming back?
It's hard to know. We know just under, let me get you the specific number, just under, I'll get you that specific number, ML, how many ballots were requested. I think there are still some that could be returned tonight, and so because of that, we want to make sure that any ballots that were still here and returned by 8 o'clock are included in those final totals, but it's not, we don't know for sure how many that might be.
Okay. And if you expect that the overall turnout statewide to be around 2 million, it sounds like it's possible or likely that more than half of the voters in Michigan will have voted absentee in this primary.
Yeah, so to get you that number again, I'm sorry, about 1.6 absentee ballots were requested overall, and about 1.2 have been returned. So there's about 400,000 still outstanding. Now, some of those could not be returned. Some of those could have been voted early at an early voting location. We'll know the breakdown of that after the polls close.
Okay. So if it does come to pass that more than half the votes were cast absentee, is that the first time that's happened in Michigan?
No, I mean, in the 2020 election cycle, we saw 2/3 ballots voted before Election Day. It's actually become a pattern to see more people vote prior to Election Day than on Election Day itself, especially with so many pre-Election Day opportunities to cast ballots.
So even sort of outside that pandemic window, more Michiganders are voting remotely or early than at the polls?
Yes.
Okay. And was 2020 the first time that happened?
2020 was. Now, that was, of course, a pandemic year, and so we weren't quite sure about, whether that would become a pattern. We saw it again more or less in 2022 and now again here in 2024. So we'll see how the fall pans out, but it's very clear that given the opportunity to vote early or absentee, many Michiganders continue to embrace that opportunity and cast their ballots prior to today, Election Day. And it also underscores how Election Day is now essentially becoming the last day to vote, the last day to turn in your ballot, as opposed to the day that everyone votes. And the other thing I'll say to that, one of the advantages to the evolution and modernization of our voting options for citizens, which again is in line with many other states, is the fact that if things do occur on Election Day, whether they be disruptions or power outages, it minimizes their effect because there have been so many ballots cast and people participating in the days prior to Election Day itself. Mm-hmm. Okay, well, thank you guys for being here tonight, and I'm sure I'll see you all again many times in the weeks ahead. Thank you, everyone. Yes.
Register and vote on the same
Correct.
the entire state?
Correct. Today. Yeah.
Is that a high number, low number?
It's in 2020 it was 3,600. So in August, and so it's about half of that. So it's not. I wouldn't consider it high for that regard. However, it is higher than in other elections we've seen. So it's I would say about average. And what I also noticed was that of the numbers we know so far, the concentration, the fact that more registered and voted in Detroit or Ann Arbor, Ypsilanti than any others, that those were the highest concentration. That tracks as well. That's pretty typical. We see usually 6 communities every election where the most number of people are registering and voting: Ann Arbor, Detroit, Grand Rapids, Ypsilanti, Dearborn. Today was no different in that regard. All right, thanks everyone.